So, you know that you're in the right place if you have struggled with emotional regulation and you're feeling easily triggered. Maybe you've been in past painful relationships where you're kind of dating or being in relationship with the same person and it keeps bringing up those same childhood wounds, maybe just past experience wounds, and it creates a lot of pain and anxiety for you. Maybe you've experienced anxiety or avoidance in your relationships, whether currently or in the past, and you might know that it comes from some past trauma, some experience that created a lot of negative experiences for you. If this is you, then you're definitely in the right place. Now, if this is our first time meeting, hi, my name is Annabelle, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker where I really meet one on one with clients. I own a private practice, and I'm really helping clients navigate relationship issues so that they can get to the root cause of why they're still feeling anxious or why there's still a lot of mistrust or a feeling of not feeling loved or appreciated in their relationship. My specialties really stem from trauma, PTSD, and addiction. I did a lot of work working with clients who were in abusive relationships, in DV shelters, and also in outpatient rehab centers. So, a lot of a lot of struggle, a lot of challenge. And with all of that experience, I really created my own program, which we'll be talking about towards the end of this workshop. That way, you understand exactly where I'm coming from and really what the purpose of this workshop is. One of my biggest modalities that I use in treatment is EMDR. If you don't know what that is, we'll also be talking about that. But I have found personally and professionally that this is one of the best modalities to use when we're treating trauma that just keeps reappearing. And no matter how much therapy you've done, no matter how much mindset work you have, it's still, those patterns still keep coming up. Um, and so that's a little bit about me. Now, since we're going to be talking about your trauma and your experiences, I thought I'd share a little bit about my trauma first. So, I used to think that my story really started or my trauma story really started when I was 16 years old. And while that was a very traumatic situation, I was in a relationship with someone significantly older than me, and I'll get to why that fact is important. Significantly older than me, I was sexually and emotionally abused by this person. And I remember leaving that relationship just so broken, so insecure because I felt like the relationship had ended because of me. And it really created a negative story in my mind about relationships and about myself. And if I'm being honest, well, yes, a lot of that was my fault, right? As a 16-year-old, this story actually dates back so much further behind. And what I mean by that is I grew up in a household where my parents were divorced when I was 5 years old. And so from a very young age, I did not understand how relationships worked. And also within that dynamic, there was a lot of traumatic stuff happening. And so from a very young age, I was already vulnerable to the risk of unhealthy relationships. And this is what I want to really talk about is that a lot of the times we don't realize that these fundamental relationships, our primary attachment figures, which are our parents, have a significant impact on how we are in relationships. And so we'll also be talking about our parental dynamics, because I think that that part is really, really important. Um, so yeah, I after that relationship, it I once I started to do my own healing and my own work, this is where I actually realized, like, wow, it's not just my trauma, but it's also my attachment styles, and particularly my nervous system. My nervous system had been wired to be afraid, it had been wired to mistrust, it was wired to think that something was wrong with me. And that is how I behaved. That is how I attracted other people from those stories, which essentially all led to toxicness, right? And so a big reason for why I do this work now, not only as a therapist that I've been doing this, like as I mentioned, for now as a counselor, I think it's more than 5 years now. I've got to change that. Probably about 6 years now that I've been doing the counseling work and really sitting with women who have been hurting in relationships and not entirely realizing why. And so, my biggest mission in my life is to heal generational trauma. I want to be able to give my children a different experience than I had, right? And I think that's most of every parent's motivation is to give their kids a better life. And in order to do that, we have to be healthy. We have to be those strong, um, a strong model of what a healthy relationship looks like. So, why do we struggle in relationships? Why is this happening for us? Well, a big reason why it's happening is what I like to identify as attachment PTSD. PTSD is usually used for acute situations, meaning that a traumatic event happened, and because of that event, you're now experiencing either reminders, memories, emotions, negative thoughts because of that incident. So, attachment PTSD, and this basically it's complex PTSD, is when you've had multiple relationships or just multiple experiences that have not felt safe. They have not felt healthy. They have just recreated the same emotional wounds that we've experienced in relationships. And my cat is crying to get out of this door. So let me open this door really quick. Okay. Apologize. I think he was not going to stop. Okay. And so as I'm going through this list, I want you to drop a number one in the chat if you relate to any of these symptoms. So in relationships, and also just to kind of clarify, whenever we have that attachment PTSD, it starts to create a survival mindset. Your nervous system is operating in this survival. And so think back, can you relate to the idea that in relationships you have often felt unloved? Or even question if you were worthy of love, right? This is the story about who we think we are. You struggle to be yourself. Maybe it's difficult to express and share your feelings because there's fear that you're going to be judged, right? Like you can't authentically be you. It almost feels like you're kind of on edge, making sure that you're saying the right thing, doing the right thing so that people will accept you during conflict. This is a big one. This is a big one that I see in my clients. During conflict, you're either freezing up because the feelings is it's so overwhelming to be in that state of conflict, or you become really angry where like now you're lashing out. My clients say it's almost like word vomit. Like I go on this monologue and I just start destroying my partner's character, right? And obviously, after there's a lot of like regret and just feeling disappointed in yourself. Yeah. Sandy says, I blow up. Yeah. Right. It's too much. And so you're either going to freeze up or it's going to all come out. And it leaves you feeling really powerless to your emotions. Okay. Put a number two if you relate to any of these. You struggle to feel good enough, right? Like, despite how much you work, how much you achieve, it's still this feeling of, is this enough? And it leads to feelings of loneliness because there's a lot of, there's almost this like tussle with, am I meaningful? Am I valuable? Right? I cry a lot and apologize. Yeah, that's actually called a fawning behavior. So it's kind of a little offset, but there's four states that your nervous system goes into. There's the fight, which is the anger, and I'm gonna destroy your character. There's the flight, where either your body actually leaves the space, so you disassociate, or you physically leave, like you're running away, you're walking away. The next one is fawning. This is where you're trying to make the situation better, and so you're apologizing a lot. And then obviously the last one is freezing. It's where you go completely numb. And you can also disassociate in that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, Third one, you feel burnt out and have a difficult time resting and taking care of yourself. So these are my codependents, right? We're constantly, and I'm in that at that box, or I always say I'm a recovering codependent because we constantly give, 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 and we never um are attuning to ourselves, right? We're never checking in. If this is too much that we're giving, where now we feel completely burnt out. And you might have a hard time letting go. That survival mindset tends to have a really difficult time letting things go, right? Meaning, if your partner did something that hurt you, you can't let it go. It's constantly on your mind. You're constantly thinking about it, no matter if it was really small or something really big, like infidelity. Okay. So yeah, a lot of people can relate to that, right? It's a I love to show this list because it just shows that when we have a um when we aren't able to repair our attachment, these are the feelings, or this is the behaviors that our nervous system will have. Okay. So, why do we end up with attachment PTSD? Why do we have this survival mindset? And this is going to be an easy one for you guys. It's trauma, right? Now, I will say, maybe I can't say 100%, but 99% of people have trauma. Why? Because life is stressful, things happen. Now, what makes people have trauma, and then what also creates attachment PTSD, is when it's unresolved trauma. That's the key here. So it's not about you experiencing trauma, it's what did that trauma go unresolved or on unprocessed. And this is very common in childhood, right? Because if you had parents who maybe were distant or unavailable, they're not going to sit there and process that trauma with you or check in, right? And so this is what keeps us stuck in survival, is we're either re-experiencing those traumatic behaviors or thought processes in relationships. We might be intellectualizing our emotions. I have a lot of high achieving women clients who they're good at intellectualizing. They could tell you exactly what happened, all of the facts, all of the details, but they cannot connect to their emotions, or they are afraid of feeling their emotions because I hear this a lot. I'm going to get stuck in it. It's going to be never ending if I actually feel them. Another reason why we get stuck here is we don't have a support system, right? There's no one that feels safe around us. There's no one that can understand. Um, and a lot of the times, especially childhood trauma, it creates a lot of shame and self-blame. Children are very egocentric, meaning that they think everything is about them. So when my parents split up, I didn't have this experience, but a lot of people do. Their parents split up and they think it's their fault, right? When obviously that's not the case. So we tend to self-blame in traumatic situations. So, how do we start healing this unprocessed, unresolved trauma that's just sitting in our bodies? Well, attachment styles is going to be a big key in not only understanding why you're stuck in survival, but also it's going to allow you a pathway to really start coming out of it. So in the chat, if you know your attachment style, go ahead and drop your either anxious, avoidant, disorganized, or secure. Drop which one you're in. If you don't know, you can just put I don't know. And that's great because that lets me know who is still new to the idea of attachment. Okay. Anxious. Okay. See, anxious. Yeah, a mixture of secure. So, yeah, you can, and depending on the relationship that you are in, different attachment styles can come up. So this is not a personality trait, right? This is not like you like this is not unchanging. This is why we can change our attachment style because it's not a personality trait. It's a part of your survival system. Okay, awesome. So let's kind of get into it just a little bit. And then if you need a test, I have a really great resource for a test. So remind me after the presentation is over and I'll link that. It's one of my favorites. Um, Okay, so attachment styles. What is attachment styles? So it comes from the attachment theory, and this research was actually done in the 1930s, which is a very, very, very long time ago, which is also kind of nice that there, even though it was created so long ago, it's still so prevalent today. And it's because they've done research after research after research, and they've realized how one how true this is, but two how significant the mother and child relationship is. This is why I say being able to be a great mother and be a great role model to your children is really the key to breaking generational trauma. And so they studied that relationship. And what they came to find out was that depending on how secure, meaning, and there's two elements to this idea of security. The two factors that created security was emotional closeness, meaning if the child cried, was it spoken to in a very soothing way? Did mom meet emotional needs? And two, was she physically close, meaning in proximity? So if child was crying, was mom in the other room and can she easily come to the room and cater to her baby, right? Or was mom working all day and was not available? Would influence that element of proximity. And so, depending on how secure, given those two factors, mom was to her child or to her baby, it created attachment styles. So, if mom wasn't close or one of those two factors are missing, it's going to create defense mechanisms. Okay. This is super, super key that your attachment style is a defense mechanism. It's the thing that protects you from being disappointed, from um, feeling unloved, or because you're feeling unloved, it's the thing that protects you or comes up as a way of signaling to the other person that you're hurt. So all of these things are protective factors. Does that make sense? Kind of drop a one in the chat if the idea that attachment styles are defense mechanisms makes sense. Okay, good. Because this is what allows you to understand why you can change your attachment style. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this is I have a lot of clients who really question, like, can I even change? Like, am I just a hopeless cause, right? And because of this, they're not. I can give research and back it up with why this part can be changed. So this is why you love, feel, and act the way you do because of our defense mechanisms, and really how deep or shallow our vulnerability is. And when we talk about each attachment style, you'll understand what that means. Okay. So in these next few slides, I'm going to go through each attachment style. And if you don't know what your attachment style, hopefully you'll be able to identify your attachment style after this. So the first one is secure. And I like to identify this as like an anchor. You have the idea that life can be better with another person. So people who are secure, they feel really comfortable with closeness. They like to be vulnerable. They still value their independence, but can lean on their partner. And they trust and can communicate and navigate conflict in a healthy way. So, this is the ideal healthy relationship. This is what we want to strive to. We want to be able to coexist with our partners, not fully depend, but not fully be independent. We want to have a mixture of both. The second is the anxious attachment style. And I want you to imagine this as a wave. And the reason it's a wave is because it has really high highs, right? There's really, really strong emotion, and it's got really low lows, meaning the negative emotions or not the negative, the sense of depression and loneliness can feel really deep. And for anxious people, they feel like they need a partner, right? There's almost this like desperation behind a partner because they never got that, right? They didn't have a person that they can depend on. They didn't have someone, a parent that created emotional safety. And so now there's this void that's there. And so anxious attachments, they really crave connection, but they have a huge fear for abandonment. They tend to overthink, need reassurance, and can easily feel rejected. The biggest reason is because attachment styles, they're so vulnerable, but yet so afraid of vulnerability that it makes it hard for them to actually show up in their authentic selves, and they do struggle with self-esteem. And the biggest thing is anxious attachments are very much codependent, and so they struggle with boundaries. Okay. And we had a few anxious attachments here. Tell me if that resonates, hearing that. You can just put a yes if that resonated. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the avoidance. So the avoidant, I want you to imagine it as an island all on its own. right? They truly believe that they don't need anyone. They are hyper independent, super self-sufficient. They don't need anyone. And so this obviously creates a lot of challenges in relationships. Because they value their independence, they avoid vulnerability. They think that they only feel safe internally versus feeling safe and wanting to share themselves with other people. They tend to shut down and pull away when things get too emotional. And they really value success and power over relationships. So, in a healthy relationship, you want to put your relationship first or at least prioritize your relationship. Avoidance, they completely deprioritize their relationship. Anxious people over prioritize the relationship. So there's no balancing of that, right? It's very extreme, just on opposite ends. And guess what? These attachment styles are the most attracted to each other. This is what creates such toxicness, right? Is because we have an avoidant trying to be with an anxious and an anxious trying to change an avoidant, and it just does not work that way, right? And the reason why these attachment styles seek each other out and they're like magnetic, right? I often hear clients say, man, I'm like addicted to this person. I can't get away from this person, right? The reason that they're so magnetic is because they each have skills and values that the other person desires, right? The anxious values the avoidance independence and control and stability, while the avoidant craves and really admires the anxious's emotions. Like they're like, man, that vulnerability is beautiful. I don't have that, so I love that, right? But again, it's a very unhealthy dynamic. Okay. Who's been in this type of dynamic, the avoidant and the anxious? Just put a one in the chat if you've had that. Still am. Yeah. Okay. So if you're in it now, um, one, this is where a lot of being one person not changing is going to create the constant struggle. Meaning, if you can get to a sense of security, you can learn to live with an avoidant. A lot of the times, what happens is you become secure and then you want your partner to become secure. And again, trying to change a partner is you can't do it, one, and two, it creates a lot of pain and suffering. Okay. So let's go over the four types of parenting style. So I've been talking a lot about how attachment is created at in your childhood. And so I'm going to go over the four attachment styles, and you can kind of identify what parenting style you had. Not always, but sometimes or most of the time, depending on the attachment style that you or depending on the parenting style that you had, it creates a certain type of attachment style. And I'll give you an example of that. Okay. So the first one, and this obviously creates a secure attachment, is the emotional coach, the parent who's the emotional coach. And this parent has healthy expectations and they also have a good sense of support, meaning that they'll ask you about your day, they'll offer a lot of love, and they'll have expectations for you like, hey, you got to clean your room, you got to be home at this time. Here's what I need from you. But they offer a lot of support, like, hey, how can I help with that? Or let me show you how to do this, right? They don't expect perfection, and they don't use non and they use non-violent consequences. And I remember when I first learned about this, I was like, man, is there really parents that parent this way? And now we're kind of seeing it as the like gentle parenting. I'm Mexican, so I feel like in our culture, that's not a common theme, right? We do our culture, especially in my family, they do not parent this way. So it was funny when I first learned because I'm like, man, do they actually, is this actually a thing? And I think what I'll say is that sometimes the gentle parenting, a lot of people can't like relate to that. And me either. I think if I was a parent, I wouldn't go full gentle parent, but I would still again have those like healthy expectations and support, but know that there's consequences, right? So that was just kind of a little thing. But okay, so that's that. And then the second one is the laissez-faire parent. So this is a parent who has low expectations, but a lot of support. This was my mom. And this sometimes, not all the time, creates an anxious attachment. Reason being is that there's you don't know the rules. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. And so this can create a lot of anxiety, right? This is where your parents don't want to make you upset. Sometimes this happens with like the single mom dynamic. You want to be their friend. You don't want to have too much rules. You don't want to nag them or you're nagging them, but there's no real consequences, right? And for my mom, she was working 24/7. And so her implementing any kind of routine or rules, it just wasn't there. Okay. The third one is the disapproving parent. So this is a parent who has really high expectations and like not a lot of support. So this is the parent that's going to yell, create a lot of rules and obedience. They might yell. They have the idea that like children should be seen and not heard. Like they don't want to hear from you. They're not gonna have a conversation. You just do as you're told. And if you don't obey, there's going to be consequences. And sometimes these consequences can be really harsh and extreme. Sometimes this creates an avoidant attachment. Yeah. Danielle, are you an anxious or an avoidant? We'll see if this matches up. Oh, it did. Okay, yeah. So again, not always, but for the most part, it's pretty spot on. Why? Because this parent taught a lot of independence. They're not going to show you anything. You got to figure it out. And if you don't figure it out, there's a consequence behind it, right? What if you have two parents that have two different parenting styles? Sometimes with two different parents, you tend to have a disorganized. So part of you might show up in relationships as an avoidant, and then in other relationships, you might show as anxious. Do you feel like that's true, Jen? That you're a little more disorganized than leaning into one or the other? Okay. Yeah. So we see how big of an impact our upbringing has, right? Okay, and the last one, this one also creates disorganized, is an uninvolved parent. So this is a parent who has no expectations and no support. This is where your parents are doing the best that they can, but they aren't able to really like be there for you, either because they're working multiple jobs, they've struggled with an addiction, or maybe they're going through a health issue that just takes up all of their physical and emotional space. And there isn't a lot of time to actually do the parenting. This can also happen if a parent was incarcerated or they passed away. Okay. Yeah. How are we feeling with learning about our parents and thinking about how they disciplined us or how supportive they were? Maybe just kind of drop a feeling in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. It is kind of sad. when I go through these slides, even though I'm speaking about it in a pretty matter-of-fact way, there's a lot of grief that happens because our parents weren't this way, or, we wish our parents were a different way. And so that's not to say that there's constant blame or constant, judgment. It's just grief. It's just grief. Yeah. So one of the things I hear a lot is, well, okay, I've been living with this attachment style for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Like, is it going to take me that long to change? And the answer is no. Why? Because there's a thing called neuroplasticity, and it basically allows the brain to change. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it doesn't mean that it's going to take 10 years because your trauma has been for 10 years, right? It just means that when we are able to start changing the patterns of the brain and really the nervous system, which is what we'll talk about, this is how true change actually happens. So, changing your attachment style is the key to creating fulfilling relationships. We absolutely need to have this if we're going to have healthy relationships, because again, it gives us a framework of what to operate from. So, I want you to imagine for a sec what changing your attachment style could mean for you. What would this mean? If you can go from anxious to secure or from avoidant to secure. Yeah, better relationship experiences. Absolutely. Right. And it helps you decipher who's healthy and who's not, or who you can feel safe with and who you can't. Attract the right person. Absolutely. Oh, and the relationships that you're in, that can also start to shift. Again, not changing the other person, but changing the dynamic for yourself. So, I mean, you guys said all the right things, but I just kind of want to emphasize that when we do this, your body will start to feel calm, right? You won't feel the guilt and the constant fear of rejection. Those things will still come up, they're feelings, but you don't have to live in it anymore. You don't have to constantly overthink and shut down and need constant reassurance. There's going to be a part of you know that there's going to be a part of you now that knows I am worthy, or I deserve this, or no, I get to control this part. Or no, I don't want to be with this person. Or yes, I want to be with this person, right? Like there's more authority in the relationships that you're in. Oh, I love that, Sandy. Yeah, I might be able to have a long-term relationship. So powerful, right? To actually create, to do the dance with someone. And because that's really what these marriages that have, been married for 10, 15, 20 years, they've learned to do the dance. That's literally what it's about. And in order to do the dance, you have to be able to tolerate stress. This is what I'm really afraid of for our generation of people who are constantly easily giving up on relationships, vice versa, right? Anxious and avoidance, giving up on relationships because we're not learning how to tolerate stress. And in my program, so I'm going to talk about my program now because I want you to see the steps that it takes to actually start healing your attachment style. And that's a big part that I talk about. And it's part of EMDR coaching. And so if you've never heard of EMDR, maybe you have, it really centers around the nervous system. So let's talk about what EMDR is really quick. So I truly believe, obviously I'm biased, but I truly believe that the most effective way to change your attachment style is to use EMDR. It's not I came to EMDR through my own healing. And then when I had it done as a client, I was like, oh my God, this is life-changing. My clients had literally been stuck in just talking and talking and talking. And I feel like I was blue in the face talking about my trauma, but yet in my now marriage, right at the time he was my boyfriend, it just kept it. I was constantly being triggered, no matter how much I talked about it. So EMDR really did change my life, and now really my marriage is healthy because of it. But it's also helped other all of my clients also change those triggers and really be able to see themselves different in relationships. So, yes, this is Prince Harry, by the way. I found out he did EMDR and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? He swears by it. But it's basically the acronym stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. What that means is it uses eye movements, meaning that when we tap, when we move our finger, therapists use different modalities, but when your eyes go left and right, it actually communicates to the brain, the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, that you're safe. It starts to regulate your nervous system. So instead of it being in that constant fight or flight, it's going to start creating safety. Um, it's a structured therapy modality, meaning when you come into session, there's a process that I'm taking you through versus in normal talk therapy, you're just coming into session and talking about that day or talking about whatever came up for you. But in EMDR, that we're going through a process of it. So it's very intentional and it's very rooted in what you're trying to heal from. It targets triggers from past trauma. And really, the biggest thing that I love from this is it helps you tolerate stress. Because guess what? Stress is going to come up. And if we don't know how to talk, if we don't know how to sit in it and not run or freeze or fight or fawn, then we actually can start having a conversation with our partner. So, EMDR helps heal emotional wounds from the past so they can stop affecting the present. I like to say that it's kind of like moving them from this, like the bear is chasing you, this emergency file that you have, into the file of it already happened and now I'm safe. So you don't have to keep reliving it and really that PTSD constantly coming up for you. Trauma isn't just a memory, it gets stuck in your body and your nervous system. Who's heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score? Maybe drop a one in the chat if you have. So that book is really, really powerful because it really teaches how everything that we've been through, it's literally in your nerve, like your nervous system remembers it. It's intertwined in how we react and how we deal with conflict. And so if we can really target the nervous system, not just the mind, right, but the nervous system, then this is where we start to have longer lasting change. Yeah, such a good read. It's pretty deep, but it's a really great read. And so that's the difference between talk therapy versus body-based therapy. And that's just a fancy or a different way of saying nervous system work. And that's the book. So The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. I think that's how you pronounce it. Okay. So survival mode is supposed to be temporary, meaning you're not supposed to feel like a bear is constantly chasing you, meaning you're not supposed to feel on all the time. You're supposed to be able to relax. You're supposed to be able to get curious and breathe through stress, right? And so when we teach your body that it's safe, then we don't have to live in survival anymore. So my trauma to transformation program, it really works for women who are single, right? Who want to start healing and really wanting to understand themselves, women who are dating, or just women who are in long-term or in a marriage where they notice, okay, I need some work done on whether some of this past trauma or just the current stressors that are coming up for me. And the three pillars that I talk about, and this is how you actually change your attachment style, is number one, you need to be doing the nervous system work. If you're in therapy right now and all you're doing is talking or you're doing just mindset work, a lot of clients say, well, I've been doing affirmations and the affirmations are not working. Well, they're not working because that's a mindset. That's a mindset shift. It's not a nervous system shift. And so we need to learn how to teach our bodies how to feel safe again and how to start coming out of survival in the moment so that we can start those mindset shifts. The second one is if there is triggers that you're connecting to a past or traumatic experience, we need to do some EMDR work because that's really going to help you desensitize whatever emotional trigger that trauma or that experience created. So that's number two. And then number three is the attachment work, right? So really understanding, okay, how am I showing up in the relationship? What are the thoughts or the beliefs that I have when I think about my partner, or I get into a fight with my partner, I'm attracting these people. And really learning what it means to communicate, to set boundaries, and to actually do the dance with your partner. Like, what does this mean in real time? Right? So all those three parts are oh, where is it at? Oh, I think I skipped it. Okay, no worries. So all of those three parts, the nervous system, the EMDR, and the attachment work, that's what we want to be targeting to really change your attachment style. Okay. Relationship books are great. Talk therapy is great. But if you're not doing these things, those things are not going to move the needle to changing your attachment style. So, some of the benefits that I have had clients really talk about after working with me has been they just feel like they've been able to change and break through those generational patterns that when they first came in thought that that was just going to be them. That was just going to be their path as well. They've really been able to transform their pain into real power. That authority that I was talking about, authority and authenticity, right? Those are the two things that we really need when we're trying to feel like ourselves and really feel connected to ourselves. And really develop a healthier relationship with your feelings, right? Because if right now you experience a lot of judgment, you don't know how to control your emotions, there's a lot of shame, then you don't have a healthy relationship with your feelings. Because guess what? Your feelings aren't going on anywhere. No matter how much you try to numb them, avoid them, distract them, shop them away, sex them away, they will still be there because you're human. And so we really want to start learning how do we create a relationship with our feelings. Someone asked, can this be done when still in trauma environment marriage? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when you go through that healing, it's gonna do two things. Either one, you're gonna get a lot of clarity about the relationship and decide that you no longer want to be in this relationship, or, and this happens a lot too, you accept the partner that you are with and you grieve the partner that you thought you wish you had, which is so huge. Again, it's that this constant, I'm trying to change him. I want him to be different. I want him, I want him to act all of these different things, and that's just not the partner that you're with, right? So yes, absolutely. We talked about the difference between talk therapy and trauma work. So that's going to be super, that's the huge, biggest mistake people make. They say, I've been in therapy for 5 years, 10 years, doesn't work. I don't like it. I feel like I come in and I talk about the same thing. That's not going to happen in EMDR work. Why? Because there's a process to EMDR. The other mistake that I see people make is they're just like ingesting information. I mean, you guys are all here. This is literally information, right? We're not doing any EMDR work where this is just all information. Now, you want to take the information and then you want to start creating connection with it. Because it doesn't matter how much self-help books you read, how many podcasts you listen to, if you're not actually connecting to your body and to the information, then it's literally just going to be information. So if you after understanding where you're at and understanding your attachment style, if you're ready to move from that survival mode into feeling safe, comment the word safe in the chat. And this is you just declaring, I'm ready, right? I'm ready. I don't want this to just be information. I am ready to make some change in my life because one, for me, but two, for any of my for any generational patterns that I'm trying to break. Okay. So, oh, this was the picture I was looking at. So you need all three, right? You need the nervous system reset. You need the attachment style transformation. You need the attachment work. And then you need the EMDR trauma work. Okay. All three work together. Okay. And so just as we're coming to an end, I do want to offer if this program is something that you feel called to, I do offer a 30-minute virtual session with me where we create an action plan. So it would be a Zoom call. We sit together and we kind of just start to talk about what are the challenges that you're experiencing, and really start to create a roadmap for you and then help you move forward in that. Okay. And that's absolutely free. I am only offering it for 5 women. So if this is something that you feel really called to, definitely go ahead and click my link. That's my calendar, and sign up for a spot where we can really go through some of this together. Okay. And then just to start wrapping up, this trauma roadmap is not for you if you're in a passionate and loving relationship, right? If you're like super happy and you don't get triggered and you don't struggle with anything, congratulations. That's amazing. I love that for you. But why are you here, right? Maybe you're not ready to explore your own attachment style. Why only women? Um, you it I target women. I love to work with women. I actually do have some men who are clients. But yeah, I this workshop was created for women. But if you know of a man that would like this experience, definitely have them reach out for me. And I'm Tony, I'm identifying you as a female. You might be a male, so I apologize. And yes, you can definitely use my link as well if you want to meet with me. Okay. You want to keep doing what you've already been doing to see if it works 100 time around, right? Nobody wants to keep repeating the same things. And then you are content living a life devoid of intimacy and happiness, but that absolutely can't be you, can it? Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Okay, Tony, you are a female. Okay, good. But I have a male client who needs, yes, if you have a male referral, absolutely. I do work with men. I don't discriminate, but this workshop specifically, I did want to give it to the ladies. Okay. And then Tony, you can email me about insurances and all of that. Definitely, you can DM me. I am on Instagram. I'll also drop my Instagram on here. If you want to follow along, or if you just have questions and you want to DM me, and that's a little bit easier for you. But yeah, thank you guys so much for spending this Saturday with me and just really being vulnerable enough to hear this information and get curious with yourself. And yes, there will be a recording. And then also, I just remembered, let me drop the link for the attachment style test. I really love this one. It's not mine. I'm not even sponsored. I should because I feel like this is literally the only quiz that I recommend because I think it's really great. They actually send you like a report absolutely free. They send you a report to your email and it kind of gives you a description. So I really like that one. It's part of the attachment project. So check them out. But yeah, and then hope to see you guys at some point, especially if you signed up for the 30-minute virtual meeting with me. All right, awesome. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope to see you soon. Okay, bye. Bye, guys.